Welcome to the 12th episode of BXC. Welcome to the 12th episode of BXC Restoration. And of course, in this one, I'm having my regular cup of tea and a Magnum Classic. Now, got the car painted. Well, actually, it's the 1st of April today, so it's April Fool's Day, so you have to see whether I got the car painted or not. But whatever the case, I did miss the Easter deadline, which was when I said I'd have the car done, and I didn't. Easter, of course, was a few days ago. But we still got a fair bit done, and I'm still quite happy with the progress. So take a look, see what you reckon, and hope you enjoyed the episode. It's like a badminton thing. You just smash it, it doesn't go anywhere. Oh, well done!
Cheese nuggets.
Where'd it go?
Over there.
Why did you do it? Where did it go?
Over there.
Yeah, but I felt the wind off. Did it go like that? How much did it miss me by?
I saw your glasses.
Okay. Watch it, will you?
I don't want to. I'm too young and beautiful to die.
Oh, nice.
Yes! Yes! I did it! I did it! I feel beautiful.
It's dangerous. It's not even round, that thing. Did that hit her? Did that hit you? Well, I've bored people enough with these seat frames, and of course the Fairlane ones don't fit in my lovely Fairmont GXL, and rather than getting new ones, I'm just going to modify these accordingly. Now, I've tried, if you look down there you can see that wobbly bit of steel there where I've cut it. There was a little shelf coming out and it was too close to the rear wheel arch. Now, even with that modification, it was still too far away in this area here, so I've done a little bit of cut and shut, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've actually cut off this section from a Falcon seat. You can see I've cut it there. It's the other way around. And sort of welded it in here, and you can see I've actually just used bits of the old one to make up little sort of reinforcing brackets there, and welded them on from the inside here. There's another weld there where I've sort of cut it. That's the old Fairlane one there, which I've taken the bits out to use as reinforcers or reinforcements. And what that does is it lets me fit this against the tunnel properly, or against the wheel arches properly. And if you look at this area here, there's the Falcon one. The Falcon's a lot shallower there than the Fairlane. The Fairlane's a lot longer. And so what we need to do, pardon me, is to cut the frame itself, but we can't cut this member here because this member here is spring steel and it uses W-clips which holds it to the frame. Now all this unpicks. You can just undo those W-clips, and you can see I've put a new one there, and they come pretty much just like this. And I'm not all that sure where to get them from. I suppose a trimming supplier, but I've had these in my toolbox since, wait for it, 1985, when I worked for Super Trim, and they were still in there. So I thought, I never threw them out, and I thought to myself, you know what, one day I'll use them, and of course today's that day. So we can undo all of the spring steel sections. They're either using little hog rings or C-clips if you like, and W-clips. That one stays, obviously. We just take them off there, all around here, and then that whole spring section will just sag down, and then we can sort of measure up and cut the frame member. And although it's a little bit unorthodox and we should get the correct Fairmont frame, this is every bit as good and it's going to work. And of course, that was out of the ZH Fairlane, and the sacrificial seat is this Falcon 500 frame, which I picked up with the front seat for $10. So, you know, we can use bits and pieces of it and get just as good a result. And so you can just grab these things with side cutters and just unwind them like that, and the seats are pretty boring, and just because I've done this so many times, you know, people must be thinking, "Oh, not seats again." But Jason came around before. I gave him the limited slip rear end out of his car, and I gave him the other petrol tank I had, and he's offered to do my seat trimming, which I am stoked with, because that's $1,500, $2,000. You know, that's a lot of money, and I've got a family to think about. So I've decided to offer to help him again, because, I mean, who wouldn't with a bloke like that? And he's asked me if I don't mind building an engine for him, which is fine by me. So I've wired up one car. I don't know if I'll be wiring the other one, but I certainly don't mind. And so we can see here, if I lift this up, that whole spring section is released, so I can just stack up the other one next to this and mark it up and cut it out. The most important measurement that I've seen so far is, which way is this going? It goes that way. Just to make sure that these line up with the other ones, the existing ones there, because they're quite similar but they are a little bit different. And we can just go around and mark up. And I'm going to cut that one a little bit long. I think I'll cut them all a little bit long. And that way, I just want to make sure when I cut it, I don't start cutting through the spring steel. And then of course when we put this Falcon one on, that's the wrong one. This Falcon one on, I beg your pardon, we can just line the thing up. But most importantly, I'm using the guide, the spring steel guide at the edge has to be flush with that, so it means I'm going to have to modify those springs a little bit on the side. But that is going to fit in like a glove. So we get that in, so I'll tack it up and then I'll weld it properly. Get a little W clip, pop him over the spring and squeeze it down. Oh, there we go. So we'll just go around and secure these springs. You know, again, these aren't hog rings, they're blunt at the ends where the C-clips or hog rings, if you like, a sharp. These are just netting clips from the hardware shop, but they do just as well. They're cool. And so we'll just go around with our little pliers and reattach springs up here, and I think they went there. Oh, this one is now. Just like that. And that'll all hold everything in place. And there's a couple up here. There's another W one, I'll do that one in a second. But it just holds it all in place, and I just want it to be I want it to be good. I want it to look good. So I've got to get these frames sort of sorted by the time Jason gets it. I haven't picked material yet. I'm thinking of just having a cloth insert in the car. I've got leather in the Commodore, leather in the MG, vinyl in the XW, and I must say my favourite seat covering is actually velour, because you can sweat in it or whatever and it just doesn't feel sticky and hot. But I might go velour, I might go houndstooth or something. See what the fabric's around, you know. There's a guy selling material on eBay and he wants $300 a bloody metre or something. I'm not going that way. I suppose next thing to do is to see if it's nice and true on this back edge, which it is. That's good. Still wants to sit up a little bit. I might just bend that a bit. But it's sitting where it should be, and it's right down here. So I'll just weld on those brackets that come down over those holes, and that will sit right back where it's meant to, and that's good, that's what I wanted. I've just sort of tweaked it in the centre, and that's sitting down nicely now, so that's a good fit, and it'll go right back where it should. It was sitting right out here, before, almost level where that is now. So I've got that where I want it. All I've got to do now is I'll re-weld on those brackets and I'll just move them over a bit just so it holds it exactly where it's meant to go. But that is a win. It's sitting exactly how it's meant to. And of course with the base in, and that base is all sort of latched in there, the only issue I can see is this rail here, this spring-loaded rail there. I think on the Falcon it sits a little bit higher to allow for padding and the fact that it rolls back and your seatbelts come through, although there is a reveal there which I would think is for seatbelts. But I'll show it to Jason and see what he thinks, but I think it'll be okay. Oh. A wee hole in the radiator. It's I've just moved this car. This is my old Austin, and hang on, it sort of sits in a stable, and I've just turned it around. I've taken it out into the paddock, and I've turned it around and sort of reversed it. It's very hard to reverse this car in, just to protect all the guttering and everything, because it was full of leaves, and if you want a car to rust out, that's how you do it. So it's not completely covered here, so I'll cover up the plenum and I'll just keep an eye on it, because I don't want, this is a restoration project and I don't want to have it destroyed before I get around to working on it. It's also got the fuel leaking onto the manifold, which isn't good. That's bad. That's not good at all. Well, there's a trail of fuel here, which isn't very good. And I've just taken the MG out for a drive. We had the fuel leak last time. This time it's coming down from, let's see, the fuel drains. Yeah, there, that hose there. It was leaking here. So I might have to get some new some needle-on seats for it. There's the two drains there. I just don't want it on the exhaust. So I've had this car a little over 5 years, and it's lived at home and it's lived at work. Now it's in this old horse stable, which is a sort of an unfitting end sort of for it, but it's certainly not the end. This is a lovely car. It's deceased estate. It came from Ballarat, and that fellow bought it. I think the gentleman in Ballarat bought it in about 1964, and he passed away in 2004. So I sort of had that open, but it sort of sat around, and all I've done really is service, oil change, changed the steering wheel emblem, and got the kids at school. Some of your team girls put a 4-speed gearbox in it for me, the floor shift one. It had the column shift 4-speed, which you probably can't see. You can see the hub of it there, yeah. And a Wolseley 1560 shroud will fit there and cover that nicely, but a freeweight dash would also look better too. They're like the Oxfords, where these had their own weird dashboard with a ignition key where that red light is between the two gauges. But whatever the case, I'll restore this. I'll put that style together and restore these, and we'll do it as sort of a two-tone salmon and cream. So I'm hanging to get to this car. This is a lovely little 1600 engine, and that's another upcoming project. So I've got two black cans of paint here. One's just a standard acrylic, which is quite thick, and that has to be reduced to use it, obviously. That's around $28 a litre. And of course we've got the satin stuff here, which is cheaper. That's around $19, $20 a litre. And this is also like pre-reduced. It's very, very thin. And that's really good for stuff like the radiator support panel, I should say, around the windows, the side glass, and also between the taillights. Now I think it's the same sort of stuff, it's just reduced, and it's also got a dulling agent in it. And the first coat you put down will be flat, and of course as you build up a couple of coats then it sort of attains its satin appearance. And so I'm going to be using this on the car. I'm not going to use that. That's good for little bits and pieces, little odds and ends. And as I said before, rather than buying pressure packs and that sort of stuff, you can just buy a can of this and it goes a long, long way. But this I'm about to use now. And of course the other thing it's great for is there's a guide coat. So I'm just going to stick it over Just with a touch-up gun. You don't have to be too overzealous with it. Now I've probably laid that on quite thick, but what we can do then is we can block it back right across it, and if we see any nice primed areas and black around it, it's a high spot, and vice versa, of course. If you end up with sort of a nice primed guard, if you know what I mean, with a little black spot, it's a low. So we need to use that as we're rubbing it back with a bit of 400 or so, and do it all dry. Whatever you do though, never be tempted to use a cheap rattle can, because that stuff's enamel and it'll block up your paper in 2 seconds and you'll wind up with a big mess. So you have to use an acrylic based paint that dries nice and fast, and then you can just block it out and you'll get the panel nice, and it gives you a visual thing. But it's not just about highs and lows, it'll also show up, and the reason I've done this quite dark, on the XW there are a few scratches which I didn't see until after I'd painted it, and this will show up any scratches as well. And so scratches from the coarser paper, from any repairs, anything like that. There's no filler in here, or virtually no filler in there, but there is a little bit up here on the B. There was a bit of a low spot, so I skimmed it, but it'll show up any of those areas that need repairing.
So you may notice that
Well, I've got this old lower control arm pinned from a Wolseley, and I'm cutting a slot in it. And the thinking behind that is to very gently tease down where these guards have been rolled under. And I've got to do a few passes to get it, very gradually brought back to where it's meant to be, because I don't want to damage out here. So I can't really do it holding a camera. It's a bit of a mess really, but I want to get this all straightened because someone's had huge fat ties on it. And once I get it down, I can sort of hammer and dolly it straight again. But this part here was all sort of pushed in. I've got that almost straight. I can repair that. It's just where it's tied up against the body there that I've got to keep working on it. The other thing it's done is it's filled in all behind here with dirt and mud. It's crooked as at the moment because it's stretched, but I've got to keep working on it. But all this is just going to encourage rust, and so it's just another brilliant idea by a previous owner. It's a bit ripply, but it still feels alright on the other side, and I've got to do around this side here, but it's not quite there yet. Do it on my back too. This is where a rotisserie would be good. I don't know why people do these sorts of things. A bit more, I think. So before I go too much further into doing the body on this, I'm putting these vents back in. These are off that ZH Fairlane I got. Originally I wasn't going to put these in, but I've decided that's the only way to go. And of course this was the one that I welded up, and I've since cut it out again, and it needs to be tidied up there. But some of the screws, one of them was all rusted out, so I've had to find another one there. But I'm taking measurements just to make sure that I get it exactly right, because this will scream if it's not correct. And so I've been going through all these fasteners and all this sort of stuff, and looking for suitable screws. And of course I've thrown all the screws in a couple of bags, but these are weird. There's the handbrake. Now that's off the ZH Fairlane I got, and this threw me because it's an 8x1.25mm metric thread. And that's off the ZH, and that ZH was I think a January 1979 or something. It was a very late one. I don't know, was it November 78? I can't remember. And I was talking to an old friend that I knew in high school, Neil McClymont, who, since he was 13 was into GT Falcons, and he's had a raft of them. He's had an early Hoey and XYs, XAs, XBs, you know, but he's had them. And the one he's got now is a June 76 one, which is full of XC parts, including the colour of it. So this could well be, you know, an XD one or something. And Ford are known for using some of the alternate model kit in their cars. So I thought that was a 5/16 thread, but I was wrong. So just keep an eye on that if you're playing around with these XCs, particularly if you're in a model year near the near where they changed to the newer model. Quite often they have different stuff from alternate models in them. Parts wise, there's a couple of others. I've got this rather scratch looking fuel cap, but it's in really good nick, with a good little clip and everything on it. And that's how I wanted it. This, I'm going to take all this off and do it satin black. And that's how I prefer to do that, because I use the same satin black I use around the window surrounds and that sort of stuff. The plating's in very good condition. Then of course I also got hold of this this ring, which is a rare spares part, and I just bought it online. So those two, they're expensive. People want all sorts of money for those, and I fortunately found a really good guy who gave it to me for what he thought it was worth, and I was quite happy with that price. I don't know if you can see it too well there, but Michael Crump, a friend of mine who did the welding on this car, bought one of those repro badges for his Futura, and so I lashed out and did the same thing for my XW. And of course there's more stuff to get plated here. I'm just sort of throwing everything in to the box, and I don't know what I'm going to get charged for this, but if I get charged another $65 I'll be stoked. Can't see it though. There's probably a couple of $100 there, but I need to send those away as well. And so it was great to hear from Neil. He was a great friend, and it's always lovely to catch up with people from your past. And one of the people he often sees is a guy called Luke Fraser, and he was another friend of mine, and had a whole lot of performance cars as well. And one of them was a GXL, very similar to this. He had a sweet cream one, ochre trim, and it really was the hamburger with the lot. And this car was optioned well, but his of course had the 351 engine and also the sunroof. A very good car, and he said to me, whatever you do, don't change the colour. He sort of liked the idea of a sweet cream car, but I think he might be a little bit disappointed, but hopefully I can make it look good and gain his support with it, I guess. So I'm just plugging away at it. I'm finding little imperfections here and there. It's out of focus. This looks out of focus. I can't see. Yeah, you can see that. I've got to repair little bits and pieces like that. Also, I've taken the deadener out of there, or the sealer out of there, so I've redone that. It's got to all be reprimed. I've clear coated where the engine number is, or where the chassis number I should say is. So that's all done. And of course I can mask that off when I paint the car, and it won't rust. Hopefully it doesn't lift. If it does, I guess I'll just brush over it later on with daughter's nail polish or something. But it's been a really slow process, and I've got the roof pretty much perfect, I reckon. I've just been blocking back all that what do you call it, guide coat, and you can see the original colour under there. I haven't taken that off the roof. I didn't want to mess with it, and I didn't want to strip it. I just wanted to leave it because it's very stable. And so I'm going to re-prime the whole car and take it back again. I'll block it back with a bit of 400 or something, and maybe something even finer, and it should be ready to paint there. But yeah, it's been a slow process, but I want this car better than the XW, and the XW is good, but there are one or two little scratches showing up through it, and I reckon I can do better. Well, it doesn't look much different, but I've spent the day ironing out little sort of mistakes and bits and pieces, and I've reprimed the whole car, and I reckon it's pretty good. I reckon I got it straight. Got to run, got to take that out. Little bits like this, got to fix those. There's a little raise there, but that doesn't matter because that's all covered up, so I'm not going to bother with that. But it feels pretty good. There's something going on here that doesn't feel right, so I'll have to take that back. But on the whole, and there were a few little bits and pieces wrong with this which I hadn't seen before. And you know, I reckon I've got them out. So tomorrow, hopefully, I can just fix those couple of tiny little errors, and I reckon I can probably paint it. I'm just going around. I've got a bloody run in it. I'm just going around fixing up a few stuff ups. Best way to feel if there's anything there. I just got that rag and I was just sort of running my hand with the rag over. I've gone through the primer here, but I don't really care that much. Because I've got to go and redo bits of it. But it feels like there's still a little small low there, which is a real worry. But just wherever the light gets it, you know, you've got to get that right. I've just sort of spot filled little parts that the vents don't cover, and in there as well. So bodywork is not my forte. Look at this run, there's a huge one. I actually really hate doing it, and I'm not that good at it, you know. I'm a better mechanic than I am paint and body guy, but I need to get this all sorted, just so that it looks the part. There's one there, there's still one there. I should use a block for this. I shouldn't be doing it, so whenever you do your bodywork, don't use your fingers like I'm doing, use a block. Because I did get this fairly straight, but that feels pretty good now. So I'll keep pressing on. I'm going to put this camera down and keep working. Right, this is massively dodgy. I've got bits of conduit and curtain rod and a tin of decking oil holding underlay against the firewall. And that's going to do two things. First, it'll act as masking, but I want the paint to go on the back of the underlay. Hopefully it doesn't blow any fibres around, but I want to be able to see exactly where to cut it for all the things that'll be poking through it. Well, I've sort of done all the cutting into the engine bay. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? So I've done all the jams. Excuse the newspaper, it's really amateurish. But I haven't yet done up on the roof, so I'm going to do that now, and hopefully it looks how I want it to look. I should go and get my proper glasses. I can't see. I'm just using a razor blade to cut the edge of the, just so it doesn't lift the paint. I'm going to take that off. There we go. Oh, we can see the engine number there. Keep calling it engine number, chassis number. But there you go, that's cool. Painted the car, got a few runs, and the conditions today are not ideal for painting at all. And the reason is it's far too warm. So I should have used a retarder, but I didn't. So I put lots and lots of paint on, so there's plenty of room for sort of wet rubbing the thing back. But overall, you know, I'm pretty happy with it. But I've got a bloody run there. But this is the good thing about acrylic, you can just rub that straight out. But that'll be fine. It's going to look beautiful. Really good. Got to do the black yet. I haven't bothered painting there. I'll clean up the boot, it looks terrible. And I can start doing more start doing a bit of fitting out work. But, you know, it's not bad. I've got a few things I'm a little bit concerned about in terms of the roof. I can see where there's a repair there which is really bad. But Rome wasn't built in a day. And all up, I'm not dissatisfied. It's going to be alright. It'll be fine. She always starts barking when I'm going to start talking. Have you noticed that? Right now, in the next chapter, we'll get all the black done on the radiator support, around the windows and sort of around the back as well. And I wasn't going to do the worst part of all and get underneath it and clean all underneath and put the deadener down. But I can start putting bits and pieces out now, so it's a bit of a relief. Susie's given me the whole day, and the neighbour went out, so I had to paint today. It was a bit warm, but I'm pretty happy that it got done anyway. Right then, see you later.